Part 38. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuchi. Chapter 371. Inside Baiko Pavilion. After throwing out the last hole card in her hand, Sister Xia, who successfully won the 2 cards in front of Ye Xianyun, stretched her body and planned to continue fighting, but unexpectedly saw Zhang Fengjai walking into the drugstore, and quickly faced Ye Xianyun reminded. Mr. Ye, Mr. Zhang is here. Ye Xianyun, who suddenly turned around, saw Zhang Fengjai with a faint confident smile on his face, quickly threw away the cards in his hand, and then gave Sister Xia's instructions. Quick, go to the 2nd floor and ask Mr. Hu to come down. Then, she rushed to Zhang Fengjai in 3 or 2 steps, but she was too emotional and didn't know what to say. Although not seeing each other for 1 day is like 3 autumns apart, it is only for the longing between lovers. Combined with the increasingly domineering feng shui pattern of Tianren Hospital, Zhang Fengjai could probably guess the reason for Ye Xianyun's excitement, which made him unable to help but use joking methods to calm her down as soon as possible, and then discuss the solution to Baiko Pavilion and Tianyan Hospital. Mr. Ye, you and I can only be regarded as good friends. We should not have a relationship that has risen to the level of a couple. Could it be that you have been secretly in love with me? Although Zhang Fengjai's joke quickly calmed down Ye Xianyun's excitement and made her feel slightly embarrassed, her unwillingness to admit defeat made her immediately use the excuse of a joke to fight back. Yes. Since the first time I saw you in the duplex mansion on Roman holiday, I have fallen deeply in love with you, and I love you to death. Zhang Fengjai, I wonder if you can accept my love now. Ye Xianyun's sharp counter-attack made Zhang Fengjai stunned, and then he couldn't help but give up with a wry smile. Mr. Ye, you are awesome, I am willing to give you the upper hand. Zhang Fengjai, I didn't mean to joke with you just now. I have truly fallen in love with you. Facing Zhang Fengjai's initiative to admit defeat, Ye Xianyun not only did not show the slightest attitude of a winner, but instead expressed her confession more seriously, and looked at him with a hint of expectation in her eyes. In fact, just as she had just countered Zhang Fengjai's joke, the moment she was rescued in the Roman holiday mansion, she had already developed a strong interest in Zhang Fengjai. Later, Zhang Fengjai calmly and decisively dealt with the sudden crisis encountered by Baiko Pavilion, and showed medical skills that even Mr. Hu sincerely admired. This made the strong interest gradually replaced by admiration and worship, and slowly turned into a feeling. Now, under Zhang Fengjai's playful teasing, she couldn't help but take the opportunity of a sharp counterattack to formally express her truest thoughts. Ye Xianyun's solemn confession was completely unexpected by Zhang Fengjai. At this moment, he didn't know how to reply or change the embarrassing topic. Fortunately, Mr. Hu, who rushed over in a hurry, allowed him to immediately find an opportunity to resolve the embarrassment, and he quickly took the initiative to greet him. Hello, Mr. Hu. Snored. Facing Zhang Fengjai's excuse for evading, Ye Xianyun immediately snorted dissatisfied to express her inner dissatisfaction. Little friend, you are finally here. Mr. Hu, who ignored the slightly awkward atmosphere at the scene, directly reached out and grabbed Zhang Fengjai's wrist, sighing excitedly. Mr. Hu, what happened? Generally, for a mature and prudent wise man like Mr. Hu, unless the matter is serious to a certain extent, his mood will not fluctuate much. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai immediately realized that the trouble Baiko Pavilion was encountering might be more serious than what he had just judged based on the feng shui pattern. Zhang Fengjai, the Baiko Pavilion can no longer be opened. At this time, Ye Xianyun took the initiative to explain for Mr. Hu. Because just 5 days ago, Qin Beizang, the director of Tianren Hospital, bought this shop at a price far below the market price and told us to pack up and get out within 7 days. If it weren't for Mr. Hu's persuasion, and if it weren't for your trump card that holds a certain hope for a comeback, I would have closed down and left 3 days ago. Mr. Ye was the original owner of this shop. The surrounding residents, After hearing Ye Xianyun's explanation, Zhang Fengjai thought about the impact of dominating the geomantic omen of the terrain on the surrounding merchants and residents, and quickly asked. That's right. Ye Xianyun nodded and admitted, while adding further. The original landlord's name is Lin Mangxiu. Not only does she live in the most upscale Xiangrui community behind the shop, but the Hualien supermarket and Xiangrui restaurant to the west of the shop are also her private properties. It can be said that she is a very wealthy young woman. Ye Xianyun further added that although it confirmed his inner suspicion, Zhang Fengjai still left Baikou Pavilion and stood on the side of the road. He carefully observed the wealth and luck of Hualien supermarket and Xiangrui restaurant, and finally confirmed that the landlord was selling the shop at a low price. The reason is directly related to Tianren Hospital's increasingly aggressive dominance of geomantic omen. Originally, using feng shui patterns to plunder the wealth and luck of surrounding merchants was already an outrageous robber's path. Now, the other party even wants to occupy and plunder the shops that surrounding merchants and residents rely on for their survival. It is 100 times more hateful than robbers and bandits. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai, who no longer suppresses the strong murderous intention in his heart, plans to immediately deal with Tianren Hospital and restore peace to the surrounding businesses and residents as soon as possible. Mr. Ye, where is the thing I need? It has been prepared for a long time. After nodding, Ye Xianyun hurried back to the shop, and then returned to Zhang Fengjai with a backpack. He took the backpack and checked it, and found that the 7 items prepared by Ye Xianyun were not only sufficient in quantity but also of high quality, and nodded with satisfaction. Boss Ye, Mr. Hu, you go back to the pharmacy to rest first, and leave the rest to me. Afterwards, Zhang Fengjai walked towards Tianren Hospital with a backpack. Mr. Hu, do you think Zhang Fengjai can solve the dilemma of Baikou Pavilion? Seeing Zhang Fengjai's figure entering Tianren Hospital, Ye Xianyun asked with a trace of worry in his eyes. Boss Ye, I have looked up a lot of books about feng shui patterns during this period, and learned some secrets about feng shui patterns and feng shui treasures. Looking at the blade-like main building of Tianren Hospital, Mr. Hu explained with a complex look in his eyes. According to the records in the classics, some feng shui treasures with excellent locations can not only bring a lot of wealth and good fortune, but also have the effect of prolonging life and blessing future generations. And some feng shui dangerous places with bad locations will not only bring endless bad luck to people, but in serious cases, it may destroy the family and harm future generations. Therefore, feng shui masters who are proficient in yin and yang and the 5 elements since ancient times will be respected by countless people, but will also be feared and suppressed by those in power. Because they can forcibly change the fate of a person, a family, and a country by changing the pattern and trend of feng shui. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 372. In front of Baikou Pavilion. After withdrawing his gaze from the main building of Tianren Hospital, Mr. Hu turned to look at Ye Xianyun and gave a serious reminder. Mr. Ye, although Zhang Xiao is not very old, based on his feng shui and medical attainments, I guess he is very likely the heir of the Taoist sect recorded in the classics, or the heir of a hidden family. So, don't make some frivolous jokes in front of him in the future. Mr. Hu seemed to be admonishing, but in fact it was a criticism, which made Ye Xianyun feel very unconvinced. Because she just took advantage of the situation to confess to Zhang Fengjai, it was not a frivolous joke, but the most real feelings from the heart, so she planned to have a good argument with Mr. Hu. But at this moment, she suddenly felt the ground under her feet vibrate slightly. However, the amplitude of the ground vibration was too small and the time was too short, which made her a little uncertain and planned to ask Mr. Hu, but she saw Mr. Hu suddenly turned around and looked at Tianren Hospital, and excitement and expectation gradually appeared in his eyes. As long as you come to the door, you are a guest. Although Tianren Hospital is equipped with a large number of smart and capable young security guards, their main responsibility is to deal with medical disturbances by some patients and their families. They will not check or pay attention to people who usually come in and out of the hospital, which also allows Zhang Fengjai to enter the hospital unimpeded. Directly bypass the main building like a blade, and quietly avoid the attention of some medical staff and patients' families, and then hide in the hidden alley of the west side auxiliary building. Then, he mobilized the strength of his steel and iron body into his right foot, suddenly raised his right foot and stomped hard, directly crushing the hard concrete floor. Then, he took out 3 pure gold coins and 9 round soybeans from his backpack, buried them together in the crushed concrete ground, and then sprinkled 3 drops of morning dew and a drop of sad tears on the buried soil. When the morning dew and sad tears penetrated the soil and soaked into the 9 soybeans, the soybeans immediately began to take root and sprout at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the tender shoots directly passed through the round holes of the coins and rushed to the ground. Just as the tender shoots, holding 3 golden coins, had just pushed the soil away and emerged, the ground affected by the dominant terrain suddenly shook slightly. At the same time, in the dean's office of the main building of Tianren Hospital, Qin Beizhang, who was fighting with a voluptuous nurse, suddenly stopped sprinting. Then, he frowned slightly and looked at the curtains, with a look of doubt in his eyes. "Dean, you're done." However, the next question from the female nurse instantly replaced the puzzled look in his eyes with anger, and then took her into the shockproof and soundproof lounge and began to punish her for her contempt and humiliation of men's dignity just now. Picking up the backpack at his feet, Zhang Fengjai quietly left the alley of the annex building and went to the hidden places of the other 3 annex buildings. Using the same method, 3 coins and 9 soybeans were buried respectively, and then the morning dew and sad tears were used to incubate them, which eventually caused the ground to shake slightly 3 times. Because the lounge had a strong anti-vibration and soundproofing effect, Qin Beizhang, who was sprinting hard, did not feel the next 3 vibrations. After the 4th ground vibration ended, Zhang Fengjai quietly left the alley of the annex building, and then wandered around the entire hospital courtyard, and nailed a short silver nail on the trunk of each pine, cypress, and osmanthus tree he passed by, and buried a soybean at the root of the tree. As a privately owned private hospital, Tianren Hospital, which has independent financial power, not only has the world's most advanced inspection equipment, but also the entire hospital settings and environment are quite elegant and comfortable, which has also attracted the favor and yearning of many medical staff. As the only undergraduate medical college in Ningji City, in addition to the affiliated hospitals under the vertical management of the college, Tianren Hospital, which has deep cooperation, also provides students with opportunities for study, internship, and employment. At this time, more than 100 sophomores of the School of Medicine's clinical medicine major were watching a live dissection performed by a chief physician in the conference room of the 3rd Annex building. At this moment, Bai Jinjiao, who looked thin and tired, did not watch the chief physician's dissection like other students, but stood in front of the windowsill of the conference room, watching the medical staff rushing downstairs and the patients' families who were worried. Suddenly, a familiar figure came into her sight, making her open her eyes wide with an unbelievable look in her eyes. Why did he come to Tianren Hospital? Then, she immediately turned around and ran to the door of the conference room, but was blocked by a handsome young man. "Jinjiao, where are you going?" Gu Yuanxian asked in a low voice with tenderness in his eyes. "I have to go out for something urgent." Bai Jinjiao, with a hint of disgust in his eyes, replied directly around Gu Yuanxian. "Jinjiao, do you need me to accompany you?" Bai Yuanxian, who quickly turned around and chased after him, asked with concern. "No need." The originally calm tone was instantly replaced by indifference. Bai Jinjiao flatly rejected Gu Yuanxian's concern and rushed out of the meeting room. "Damn it!" Looking at the beautiful figure disappearing at the door of the meeting room, Gu Yuanxian's tenderness was drowned by the anger, and he couldn't help but clenched his fist and punched the wall hard. "Gu Yuanxian, do you want to get Bai Jinjiao?" Just when Gu Yuanxian was annoyed by Bai Jinjiao's cold attitude, a gentle voice suddenly came to his ears. "Hello, Teacher Gu turning around and looking at the young man in a white coat, handsome, extraordinary temperament, and a hint of arrogance between his eyebrows, Gu Yuanxian hurriedly greeted him respectfully. Because the young teacher surnamed Gu in front of him is not only the youngest professor of clinical medicine in the medical school, but also the attending physician of the affiliated hospital. At the same time, he is also a sitting expert hired by Tianren Hospital with a high salary. Tianren Hospital can become the second teaching base of the medical school and provide a large number of internships and jobs every year, thanks to the help of teacher Gu in front of him. Therefore, he is deeply admired by countless teachers in the medical school, loved by countless students, and admired by countless female students. Gu Yuanxian, answer me, do you want to get by Qinjiao? Nodding in response to Gu Yuanxian's greeting, teacher Gu stared into his eyes and continued to seduce. Yes. Nodding vigorously, Gu Yuanxian clenched his fists and said with a hint of fascination in his eyes. Not only did I dream of getting by Jinjiao's love, but I also plan to live with her hand in hand and grow old together in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 373. Tianren Hospital, Conference Room. After receiving Gu Yuanxian's wishful reply, teacher Gu flashed a contemptuous sneer in his eyes and reminded him firmly. Gu Yuanxian, I can help you get by Jinjiao, including her heart and body. Really? Gu Yuanxian immediately asked in surprise. Absolutely true. While nodding in confirmation, teacher Gu took out a delicate and small porcelain bottle from his sleeve, handed it to Gu Yuanxian and warned. As long as she takes the pill in the porcelain bottle, she will fall hopelessly in love with you. He reached out to take the porcelain bottle handed over by teacher Gu, and after pulling out the cork of the porcelain bottle, he felt a very attractive medicinal fragrance, which made Gu Yuanxian feel that his energy was instantly lifted. Then, he poured out a pill that was dark red in color and the size of a cherry from the porcelain bottle, and asked with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Teacher Gu, can this pill really make Jinjiao like me and fall in love with me? After all, as a college student in the new century who believed in the scientific outlook on development, it was difficult for him to believe that he could control a woman's thoughts at will with an ordinary pill. Hearing that Gu Yuanxian dared to question the pills he had carefully prepared, teacher Gu's eyes flashed with a cold light. He immediately took the cherry-sized pills from his palm, and then greeted a female student with a good appearance and figure. There was a sound. Mikey, come here. Teacher Gu, the female student who heard teacher Gu's greeting, ran over quickly. The pill in her hand passed between Mikey's nose. After waiting for 5 seconds, teacher Gu pointed at Gu Yuanxian and asked. Mikey, do you like Gu Yuanxian? I like it, Mikey, with a look of obsession in her eyes, nodded vigorously and admitted. Do you love Gu Yuanxian? Like. Are you willing to be his wife, be loyal to him, and obey his orders for the rest of your life? I do. Seeing Mikey willing to marry him like a nymphomaniac just after smelling the aroma of the pills, Gu Yuanxian was extremely shocked, and at the same time, excitement immediately appeared in his eyes. Teacher Gu's next question caused the excitement in his eyes to be immediately replaced by madness. Are you willing to serve your husband with other women? I do. Teacher Gu, give me the medicine. Gu Yuanxian, whose breathing gradually became heavier, reached out to teacher Gu and asked for pills that could control his mind. Gu Yuanxian, after leaving the vacuum protection of the porcelain bottle, the efficacy of this pill can only last for half an hour, so you must hurry up and let Bai Jinjiao take the pill. While returning the pills to Gu Yuanxian, teacher Gu reminded him solemnly. Otherwise, the pills will not only fail to control Bai Jinjiao's thinking, but will turn into a fatal poison. I see. Nodding heavily, Gu Yuanxian put the pills back into the porcelain bottle, turned around and ran out of the conference room quickly, and then went to look for Bai Jinjiao, who had just left. Looking at Gu Yuanxian disappearing at the door of the meeting, Teacher Gu said to himself with a cold light flashing in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that Bai Jinjiao, that girl, has a protective jade pendant given by a powerful psychic, which just restrains the evil aura on my body and prevents me from getting close to her, how could I let you, who think you are, guy, you took advantage of her for nothing. After talking to himself, Teacher Gu, who called himself my master, waved his hand to the obsessed and dull Mikey. Afterwards, Mikey regained consciousness, scratched her scalp and turned back to the autopsy site without remembering what had just happened. After slamming the last short silver nail into the trunk of the last pine and cypress tree, and then flicking the last round soybean into the soil at the root of the tree, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Originally, the 7 items he asked Ye Xianyun to prepare to break the Feng Shui pattern that dominates the terrain were prepared based on the power of Feng Shui observed at that time. But what was completely beyond his expectation was that in just 10 days, the power to dominate the terrain and Feng Shui pattern increased by nearly 10 times. The changes in the Feng Shui pattern made him worried that the number of pine, cypress, and osmanthus trees that could be used to control the Feng Shui trend would increase in the hospital courtyard, which would eventually lead to a shortage of the items prepared in advance, thus affecting the next actions. Fortunately, the Feng Shui master who arranged and transformed the earth-dominant Feng Shui trend did not have a thorough understanding of yin-yang and the 5 elements, and his own Feng Shui cultivation level was also average, so he did not change the core pattern of the Feng Shui trend. If it were him and the evil cultivator Wu Yujia, they would definitely increase the number of pine, cypress, and osmanthus trees in the hospital courtyard in advance to enhance the core energy of the Feng Shui trend, and then expand the power to dominate the Feng Shui pattern. He raised his head and glanced at the 13-story main building, and finally his eyes rested on a windowsill hidden by curtains in the middle of the 9th floor. With a disdainful sneer flashing in his eyes, he walked directly around the main building and came to the front yard. Turning his head to look at the patients and family members coming and going, Zhang Fengjai took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhuang Jian's number, asking her to find a way in advance to calm down the sensation caused when the Feng Shui pattern was destroyed. Then, he took out the remaining 13 pure gold coins from his backpack, 24 drops of morning sun dew, 9 drops of geranium blood, 3 drops of heart blood and 2 drops of sad tears. Then, he took out 12 blank talisman papers from his sleeves, and then used 9 drops of Tian Kui blood to draw 9 evil-breaking talismans, and 3 drops of heart blood to draw 3 cracking talismans. Whether it was the items he took out or the talismans he drew while squatting on the ground, Zhang Fengjai's strange behavior immediately attracted the attention of the patients and their families passing by, as well as several security guards in the security room. One of the security guards, who was about 30 years old and looked a little fierce, reached out to take down the electric baton hanging on the wall, and then left the security room and ran straight to Zhang Fengjai. "Boy, what are you doing?" When he was 3 or 4 meters away from Zhang Fengjai, the fierce-looking security guard shouted loudly, while reaching out to press the switch of the electric baton hard, and then a crackling electric shock sound came out of the electric baton. Ignoring the scolding of the security guard behind him and the threat of the electric baton in his hand, Zhang Fengjai arranged the 9 evil-breaking talismans and 3 cracking talismans in the shape of a character. Then, he blended 2 drops of sad tears into 24 drops of morning dew, and then sprinkled them evenly on the 13 pure gold coins. "Boy, are you deaf or dumb?" Seeing the thin boy ignoring him, the fierce-looking security guard had a look of doubt in his eyes, walked behind him, and stretched out his hand to pat his shoulder. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 374. Tianren Hospital, Front Yard. Just as the security guard stretched out his palm and was about to hit his shoulder, Zhang Fengjai turned his head suddenly and warned with a cold look. "If you still want to save your arm, then get as far away as you can." Ouch! After hearing Zhang Fengjai's warning, The fierce-looking security guard screamed, and then the 5 fingers of his right hand immediately bent from slapping to grabbing, directly grabbing his shoulder bone. At the same time, the electric baton held tightly in his left hand also stabbed his waist. From this point alone, we can also know how domineering and arrogant these security guards hired by Tianren Hospital are usually. Facing the active security guard, Zhang Fengjai, with a cold light in his eyes, grabbed the other's left and right wrists with both hands like a gust of wind, and then suddenly squeezed hard. Kaka. Accompanied by the sound of bones breaking, the electric baton in the security guard's left hand fell directly to the ground, and then jumped and howled. Ah! The heart-wrenching scream of the security guard immediately alarmed the remaining 3 security guards in the security room. They took down the electric batons hanging on the wall, pushed open the glass door and rushed over. At the same time, the security guard who fell behind started to call for support with a walkie-talkie. Since destroying the feng shui pattern that dominated the terrain would cause a shocking shock, there was no need to be afraid of the spell-condensing Taoist method performed in public. So, facing the 3 security guards who rushed over quickly, Zhang Fengjai, who was too lazy to do it himself, took out an old-looking spell from his sleeve and threw it into the air with spiritual power. Woo! Accompanied by the roar of a tiger that resounded through the sky, a colorful tiger with a height of nearly 5 meters and a body length of more than 8 meters rushed out from the burning flames of the spell, and then glared at the 3 security guards who rushed over. It is indeed a spell that uses the blood of tiger spirits at the foundation building stage to draw a spell that condenses things. Looking at the tiger transformed by the spell, which not only has the strength to reach the foundation building stage, but also has a high level of wisdom, Zhang Fengjai said to himself with a look of surprise in his eyes. In this case, the power of the dozen spells collected from the box in the bedroom of the 3rd grandfather's bamboo building can be used as a trump card to save lives. Then, he turned to face the main building of the hospital and took a deep breath. Then, 10 fingers quickly condensed the mark into 13 pure gold coins. After merging into the condensed mark, the pure gold coins neatly placed on the cement floor rose into the air one after another. At the same time, the 3 security guards who ran over quickly saw the tiger transformed by the spell, and their legs softened and fell to the ground. And the medical staff, patients, and family members around them, and even the pedestrians at the entrance of the hospital, all fled in fear. Because in their impression, even the largest Siberian tiger is only 1.34 meters tall and only about 3 meters long. But what about this tiger in front of them? The strange way it appeared out of thin air and its huge body like a mountain completely broke their limited cognition and automatically classified the tiger as a demon beast. Facing the legendary demon beast, how could they not feel fear and terror? How could they not quickly scatter and run for their lives? Facing the 3 security guards who crawled down in fear, the tiger flashed a look of disdain in its eyes, turned its huge body and crawled directly behind Zhang Fengjai to protect his next spell. Also ignoring the people screaming and running for their lives around, Zhang Fengjai looked at the 13 pure gold coins floating in front of him, slowly exhaled the pent-up turbid air, and the 10 fingers that condensed the mark quickly changed into a sword gesture, and then suddenly took a step forward and shouted. The sky and the earth are boundless, money turns into a sword. Accompanied by Zhang Fengjai's roar, the 13 pure gold coins controlled by the sword technique quickly combined into a gold sword with a length of about 30 centimeters, exuding a faint golden color, but without a hilt. Sword. Zhang Fengjai waved at the gold sword made of pure gold coins, and the gold sword quickly fell into his hand. Afterwards, he mobilized the spiritual power in his dantian to condense the hilt, which was completely integrated with the gold sword. Immediately afterwards, holding the hilt condensed by spiritual power, the tip of the sword was aimed at the 9 evil-breaking talismans drawn with Tian Kui's blood, and when he was about to shout and drive the evil-breaking talismans, he suddenly heard a shout full of excitement and surprise. Yezi! The familiar shout made Zhang Fengjai look up. Then, he saw a girl with long hair, wearing a dark blue waisted dress, with a stunning face and a fairy-like temperament, standing in front of the flower bed on the east side of the main building, and looking at him with tears of excitement in her eyes. Jinjao, looking at the beautiful girl who looked much thinner than before and slightly tired, Zhang Fengjai trembled slightly and whispered to himself. This beautiful girl in front of him made him experience the first restlessness, the first love, and the first secret love in adolescence. It was the description of this peerless beauty in front of him that made him yearn for the life in the urban world, and every time he did something that went against the wishes of his three grandfathers, that is, he took the initiative to cancel the engagement with Lin Chalan. Yezi, how have you been recently? Looking at Zhang Fengjai, who had replaced the simple Taoist robe with casual running clothes and had a short haircut, Bai Jinjao walked in front of him, looked at him carefully, and asked with a trembling voice. Good, very good, better than ever before. After taking a deep breath and forcibly suppressing the excitement in his heart, Zhang Fengjai replied indifferently. Because he could never forget the scene he had seen on the grass of the artificial lake of the medical school. That scene made him feel heartbroken and miserable, and that scene caused him to suffer a severe blow. Feeling the alienation and anger in Zhang Fengjai's cold tone, Bai Jinjao immediately explained anxiously. Yezi, you really misunderstood me. Things are not what you imagined. Senior brother Gu and I are innocent. Senior brother Gu. Haha. When Zhang Fengjai heard Bai Jinjao mention the handsome young man, he immediately thought of the deep love in the other's eyes when he looked at her, and he couldn't help but sneer. The sneer full of sarcasm made Bai Jinjao know that Zhang Fengjai's misunderstanding of him was very deep, and it was not something that could be fully explained in a few words. So, she took a deep breath and planned to start from the medical school welcome party she was preparing to talk about the reason why she stayed with Gu Yuanxian. But at this moment, more than 30 security guards holding electric batons and machetes suddenly rushed out from the automatic sensor door of the main building lobby. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 375. Tianren Hospital, Front Yard. Wu. Seeing the 30 or so security guards rushing out of the main building lobby, the tiger, who was originally resting on the ground, suddenly stood up and roared to the sky, then directly past Zhang Fengjai to meet it. Facing the pounced tiger, the 30 or so capable and strong young security guards showed extremely terrified looks in their eyes, and their legs were trembling slightly and they were a little unstable. But they did not turn around and run for their lives immediately. Instead, they attacked with electric batons and machetes without knowing whether to live or die, and provoked the tiger. Whether it was the huge body like a mountain or the powerful strength of the foundation building realm, the tiger ignored the attack of the electric baton and machete. So, facing the security guards who dared to provoke and approach it, the tiger raised its tiger claws with a low roar and slapped them away one by one. Fortunately, the consciousness given by the spells drawn in the realm of spiritual enlightenment, and the control of power in the realm of foundation building, made every security guard who was knocked away by the tiger fainted with minor injuries, without any hidden danger of death. At the same time, the tiger roar that resounded throughout the hospital also interrupted Bai Jinjao's thoughts of explaining, making her open her mouth slightly and not knowing what to say. Bai Jinjao, I have something very important to deal with now, so let's talk about it later. The roar of the tiger also calmed Zhang Fengjai from his anger and sadness. Looking up at the door behind the automatic induction door, the middle-aged man in his 40s wearing a white coat, with a sturdy appearance, flashed a terrifying cold light in his eyes, and solemnly instructed Bai Jinjao. Because he felt a trace of spiritual power fluctuation from the sturdy-looking middle-aged man, as well as the natural breath that was completely integrated with the risk water pattern of the entire Tianren hospital, which made him guess that the other party was probably Qin Beizang, who arranged and transformed the feng shui pattern of the Earth Tyrant, and the dean and boss of Tianren Hospital. The sudden attack of the tiger, Zhang Fengjai's solemn instructions, and the 12 talismans placed on the cement floor made by Jinjao, who was familiar with and understood Taoism, immediately guessed that he might be fighting with other cultivators. At the same time, considering that she needed to reorganize her thoughts in order to completely prove her innocence and win back her love. So, she immediately nodded and gave a warning, then turned and went straight to the flower bed on the east side of the main building. Yezi, be careful. At the same time, Gu Yuanxian, who left the meeting room to look for Bai Jinjiao, also appeared in front of the flower bed on the east side of the main building. After seeing Bai Jinjiao running over quickly, a cold and sinister light flashed in his eyes, and he poured out pills from the exquisite porcelain bottle, then greeted her with a smile on his face. Jinjiao. After Bai Jinjiao turned around and left, Zhang Fengjai looked up at Qin Beizang standing behind the automatic sensing door, and shouted with a slight smile on his face. The three pure ones show their magical powers, and the golden sword seals the demons. Accompanied by Zhang Fengjai's shouting, 3 evil-breaking talismans in the shape of a Chinese character immediately soared into the air and floated in front of him. Then, Zhang Fengjai waved the golden sword in his hand, pierced the 9 talismans with dazzling moves, and then threw them towards the main building with force. Then, 9 pieces of talisman paper each wrapped a pure gold coin, and shot them towards the 4 corners, 4 sides, and center of the main building respectively. Bang, bang, bang. When the talismans wrapped with coins were attached to the wall of the main building, the 9 talismans instantly burned automatically. As the spell burned automatically, the double-layer glass on countless window sills suddenly shattered automatically, causing countless staff, patients, and family members in the building to scream and flee. At the same time, waves of white smoke emerged from the exploded windows and then slowly gathered together. Finally, a monster head that looked like a dragon but not a dragon, like a snake but not a snake, and as big as a mountain was formed. When Zhang Fengjai saw the white smoke emerging from the main building and finally condensed into a majestic dragon head, he held the hilt of the sword solemnly, then waved the money sword, which was only 8 centimeters long, and pointed at the spell drawn with 3 drops of heart blood. Then, 3 cracking talismans soared into the air and floated in front of the dragon head. Reaching out to take the 3 pure gold coins from the money sword, Zhang Fengjai threw them at the 3 cracking talismans with force and shouted. Heaven is ruthless, but the sky has tears. Heaven is compassionate, and the injustice will be redressed. When the 3 pure gold coins hit the shattering talisman, the 3 shattering talismans instantly burned, and the burning flames gradually condensed into 3 phantoms that looked exactly like Yezianyuan. Afterwards, Yezianyuan, who was standing in the front, pointed at the dragon head and shouted silently with an extremely angry look. Yezianyuan, who was standing on the right, raised his head and pointed at the sky, and asked silently with a look of grievance. Yezianyuan, who was standing on the left, knelt on his knees in the air, and cried silently with 2 lines of tears flowing out of the corners of his eyes. On the side of the road in front of Baiko Pavilion. Look, isn't that our president yet? A dozen shop assistants who were startled by the tiger roar that resounded through the sky just now ran out of the pharmacy and came to Yezianyuan and Hu Lao, and then looked at Tianren Hospital as if they were 2 people. So, when the flames of the 3 talismans condensed into 3 images that were exactly the same as Yezianyuan, Sister Xia and others could not help but point out in shock. Yezianyuan, who also saw her own image condensed in front of the main building of Tianren Hospital, had a complicated look in her eyes besides incredible shock. Especially when the 3 identical images made angry scolding, aggrieved questioning, and sad tears, the complicated look in her eyes was gradually replaced by tenderness. Because she didn't know that the flames burning in the talisman could condense an image exactly like her, because Zhang Fengjai used her heart blood to draw the talisman, and used the pure gold coin stained with her sad tears to give the image the idea. And she mistakenly thought that it was a manifestation of Zhang Fengjai's daytime thinking and nighttime dreaming, so she felt an extremely sweet sense of luck in her heart. Alas! Just when the 3 talisman flames in front of the main building of Tianren Hospital condensed an image exactly like Yezianyuan, Mr. Hu immediately turned his head and looked at Yezianyuan. When he saw the tenderness in Ye Xianyun's eyes and the happy smile on her face, he couldn't help but sigh. Although Ye Xianyun has outstanding looks and figure, and a superior family background, these advantages of hers are not worth mentioning to Zhang Fengjai, who has a mysterious origin. Hu Lao is worried that Ye Xianyun will suffer emotional harm, and even more worried that her self-love will eventually cause Zhang Fengjai's displeasure, thus affecting the development of Baiko Pavilion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 376. Tianyan Hospital, in the front yard. As the three Yes Yanyuns condensed from the three shattering talismans used angry scoldings, aggrieved questions, and weeping complaints, a look of thinking gradually appeared in the eyes of the dragon head condensed by the dragon veins. Then, Long Mei slightly raised his head and looked at Baiko Pavilion. In his huge lantern-like eyes, his thoughtful gaze was gradually replaced by shame. Because it could clearly see the wealth and luck gathering above Baiko Pavilion, it was forcibly plundered by Tianren Hospital, which condensed its own dragon head and dragon body, which eventually caused Baiko Pavilion to decline day by day and was about to close its doors. However, when he noticed that countless innocent merchants and residents around him had also had their wealth and luck robbed by Tianren Hospital, the shame in his eyes was instantly replaced by anger. Dragon Vein Dragon Head's anger was just as Zhang Fengjai thought. As the saying goes, peers are enemies. Baiko Pavilion is a pharmacy that specializes in traditional Chinese medicine, while Tianren Hospital specializes in Western medicine. They use their dominance in Feng Shui to plunder each other's wealth and luck, and force them to close their doors. This is competition between the same industries. Although the method is too insidious, it is within the scope of reason. But the surrounding merchants and residents are innocent. To rob them of their wealth and luck would not only violate the rules of heaven and reincarnation, but also cause karma and retribution, and ultimately prevent them from getting the opportunity to transform. Therefore, the dragon veins with angry flames in their eyes raised their mountain-like dragon heads and roared silently into the void. Along with the silent roar of the dragon vein faucet, the main building and four auxiliary buildings behind the faucet began to shake violently. Countless tiles and cement fell off the walls, and countless inspection instruments and cabinets were swayed here and there. Faced with the sudden earthquake, staff, patients, and family members in the four auxiliary buildings, as well as medical students who came to study, fled in all directions screaming. Teacher Gu, who claimed to be my master, suddenly appeared on the roof of the annex building, ignoring the violently shaking cement floor under his feet, and muttered to himself with a puzzled look in his eyes. Among the casual cultivators and evil cultivators in Ningji City, apart from Brother Qin who can control the trend of Feng Shui with the help of secret treasures, it seems that only Wu Yujia, the poisonous cultivator in Pinch Tea House, can use the 5 elements of Feng Shui to force out the true form of the fake dragon veins. Come here. However, Wu Yujia should know the relationship between Brother Qin and this young master. With his cultivation at the 9th level of Qi condensation, he should not dare to provoke Brother Qin easily. So who is the Feng Shui master who forced the true form of the pseudo-dragon vein? Well, Teacher Gu, who was puzzled, suddenly raised his hand and slapped his forehead hard. After sighing, he blamed himself with a wry smile. I'm really drunk too, but it's only a few dozen meters away. I'd know it at a glance over there, so why bother guessing here? Then, he turned around and followed the stairs back to the auxiliary building. He didn't care at all about the violently shaking stairs under his feet or the cracked walls around him. He calmly appeared in the lobby on the 1st floor, and then went straight to the main building more than 40 meters ahead. Yin and Yang work together, and the 5 elements are reversed. Just when the main building and the 4 auxiliary buildings began to shake violently due to the angry roar of the dragon vein dragon head, a majestic soft drink suddenly came from the roof of the main building. Accompanied by a majestic shout, a pure white jade ruler suddenly flew out from the top of the building and hit the dragon vein dragon's head hard. Facing the blow of the jade ruler, the burning anger in the dragon's eyes was instantly replaced by pain, and at the same time, the silent roar that caused the main building and the auxiliary building to shake stopped. Appointment Feng Shui ruler. When Zhang Fengjai saw the jade ruler that could directly hit the illusory dragon vein dragon head and cause severe pain and fear in the dragon's head, Zhang Fengjai shouted out the origin of the jade ruler in surprise, and a look of enlightenment suddenly flashed in his eyes. What is dragon vein? Only by gathering the 5 elements, integrating yin and yang, absorbing the heaven and earth, seizing the sun and moon, and condensing the earth's veins can it be called dragon veins. Dragon veins are not only a type of feng shui terrain that can bestow blessings on all creatures, but also a unique creature that has the opportunity to achieve enlightenment and become an immortal. Since ancient times, there has been a wise saying about dragon veins circulated among Taoists. Dragon veins can be encountered but cannot be found, and they can be used but cannot be captured. In other words, no matter how advanced the feng shui master is, he cannot accurately find the location of the dragon vein by means of finding acupoints and determining pulses. He can only rely on his own luck and opportunities to touch it. At the same time, one cannot use the means of yin and yang and the 5 elements to control the consciousness born from the dragon vein. Although the terrain occupied by Baikou Pavilion and Tianren Hospital is not a complete dragon vein, it still has the charm of 20 to 30% of the dragon vein. It already has a certain faint consciousness of joy, anger, sorrow, and joy, which can be called a pseudo-dragon vein. Even he and the evil cultivator Wu Yuzha were unable to use the feng shui methods of yin-yang and 5 elements to control the pseudo-dragon veins that had a certain degree of self-awareness. So, how did Qin Beizang, who had very average feng shui ability, control the pseudo-dragon veins for his own use, and even forcibly violate the pseudo-dragon veins' consciousness to plunder the wealth and luck of innocent merchants and residents around him? This is what he has always been puzzled about. At this moment, after seeing the jade ruler hitting the dragon's head, he finally solved the doubts in his heart. The appointment feng shui ruler is a secret treasure similar to Taoist tools. Although it does not have the powerful attack and defense power of Taoist weapons, it has a natural restraint effect on some special illusory creature's consciousness. This is also the treasure that feng shui masters most desire. After all, in addition to dragon veins, there are hundreds of special veins in the world, such as tiger veins, wolf veins, snake veins, etc. Relying on the restraint of the earth vein consciousness by the geomancy ruler, it is easy to obtain the exotic flowers and plants hidden in the earth veins. As the dragon vein head stopped roaring angrily, a middle-aged man in a white coat stepped on the roof and stretched out his hand to hit the geomancy ruler that hit the dragon vein head. Hey, look, the middle-aged man standing on the roof, is he Director Qin of our hospital? As the main building and the auxiliary building stopped shaking violently, the medical staff who were fleeing stopped in place and looked around. When they saw the middle-aged man in a white coat standing on the roof, they couldn't help but talk about it in surprise. Yes, it's our Dean Qin. I've even had dinner with him. I didn't expect Dean Qin to be not only a famous doctor with superb medical skills, but also a legendary extraordinary person. The evil dragon is a disaster for the world, and Dean Qin subdues the evil dragon at the critical moment. I admire our Dean Qin so much, and I don't know when he is willing to take advantage of me. With your dinosaur-like appearance and bucket-like body, Dean Qin must be blind to look at you. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 377. Tianren Hospital, the roof of the main building. For the cultivators who absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for their own use, it is far better than the 6 senses and 6 perceptions of ordinary people. They can clearly hear any sound within a radius of 50 meters and can clearly see everyone's facial expressions. Therefore, when seeing the heartfelt admiration of the medical staff around him and hearing the incomparable trust of the patients and their families around him, Qin Beizang immediately waved to the dragon head with a smug smile. Facing Qin Beizang's wave, although a trace of unwillingness and disobedience flashed in the huge eyes of the pseudo-dragon head, when it saw the geomantic ruler in the other party's hand, it finally lowered the dragon head obediently and let the other party step on its head. This is also the second powerful effect of the geomantic ruler, which can allow illusory creatures to have a substantial body for a short time. Qin Beizang gently stepped on the dragon head with his right foot and ordered, "Land." The pseudo-dragon head, who had to obey the order, landed steadily on the cement ground in front of the main building. However, since the head of the pseudo-dragon vein is as big as a mountain, even if the chin of the head is close to the ground, Qin Beizang, who is standing on the head of the dragon, still looks down at Zhang Fenjai. "My surname is Qin, my name is Beizang, and my Taoist name is Compassionate Good Man. I wonder how you should address me." Using the geomantic ruler to control the consciousness of the pseudo-dragon vein, using the monopoly of the geomantic pattern to forcibly plunder the wealth and luck of the surrounding merchants and residents, and even using the evil methods of the Taoist sect to seize the shops that merchants rely on for survival at a low price. Such a means of robbery is simply a naked humiliation to the four words compassionate good man. Therefore, when Zhang Fenjai heard Qin Beizang shamelessly use the four words compassionate good man as his Taoist name, he could not help but laugh directly. Ha ha! During this period of time in the secular world, I have seen many shameless people, but I have never seen such a whore like Dean Qin who pretends to be a saint. Zhang Fenjai's sarcasm without any face made Qin Beizang's hypocritical smile instantly replaced by gloom, and then he stomped hard on the head of the pseudo-dragon vein with his right foot. Then, the pseudo-dragon vein head with a bloody mouth opened and roared at Zhang Fenjai. Ah! Accompanied by the deafening roar, the wind and waves formed by the roar instantly reached the level of a level 10 gale, which also made the people facing the dragon head immediately retreat, and the flowers in the flowerbead were uprooted. Only Zhang Fenjai, who was standing in front of the dragon head, and the colorful tiger transformed by the talisman, stood motionless in the wind and waves. Woo! Passive defense is not Zhang Fenjai's character. Seeing that the dragon roared for a long time, Zhang Fenjai turned his head and looked at the tiger beside him. Then, the tiger put its front paws on the ground, opened its bloody mouth and let out a roar that resounded through the sky, completely suppressing the dragon roar. At the same time, the wind and waves formed by the tiger roar instantly reached the peak of the 10th level gale, directly blew away the wind and waves formed by the dragon roar, and then whistled towards Qin Beizang like clouds. Humph! Facing the howling wind, Qin Beizang snorted disdainfully, waved the geomantic ruler in his hand, and hit the head of the pseudo-dragon vein heavily. The pseudo-dragon vein head, which was in pain, instantly ignited endless anger in its eyes, stopped the dragon roar, took a deep breath, and then roared at the tiger again. Ah! The dragon roar wind and waves, which instantly reached the 11th level gale, forced the tiger to stop roaring, turn around and block in front of Zhang Fenjai, and then crawl forward to make a defensive posture. Although there is only one level difference between the 11th level gale and the 10th level gale, the power between the two is as different as heaven and earth. The powerful 11th level gale not only blew cracks on the concrete ground, but also the residual power of the strong wind began to affect the southeast and northeast directions. If the 10th level gale only blew people back, then the 11th level gale directly blew people up, which made the weak Bai Jinjiao unable to continue holding the windowsill of the main building, and her body was blown into the air. Yezi, save me! At the moment when her body was just in the air, Bai Jinjiao instinctively asked Zhang Fenjai for help. Zhang Fenjai suddenly turned his head and looked at Bai Jinjiao who was blown into the air, and a look of hesitation flashed in his eyes. But when he saw the sachet tightly held in Bai Jinjiao's jade hand, the hesitation in his eyes was instantly replaced by determination. Tiger, come with me to save people. The spiritual power of his dantian combined with his strong physical strength allowed him to directly step onto the back of the tiger, and then he roared and ordered. The tiger turned quickly, ran with the help of the wind, and then jumped high at the flower bed. At the same time, Zhang Fengjai also used his spiritual power to condense a long rope, tied by Jinjiao's waist directly, pulled her to his side, and then sat on the tiger's back. Damn it! Gu Yuanxian, who was rescued by teacher Gu one step ahead, clenched his fists and cursed with gritted teeth when he saw Bai Jinjiao being held in the arms of the thin boy riding the tiger. Because in the more than 1 year of pursuing Bai Jinjiao, not to mention holding her in his arms affectionately, he didn't even touch her jade hand. How could Zhang Fengjai's move of taking advantage of the opportunity not make him feel angry? Teacher Gu, who called himself the young master, looked at the tiger-riding boy with a puzzled look. Because he always felt that the thin boy in front of him, who had reached the peak of the 9th level of qi condensation, had a vague sense of familiarity. He always felt that he had seen him somewhere before, but he couldn't remember it for a moment. Yezi, thank you. Feeling Zhang Fengjai's strong chest and the familiar smell emanating from his body, Bai Jinjiao blushed and whispered a thank you. In response, Zhang Fengjai did not give any response, but just cooperated with the tiger to control his body and resist the strong wind, and forcibly landed on the ground, and then jumped to the east wall of the main building. Then, he lifted Bai Jinjiao with his right hand and put her on the ground, and then signaled the tiger to come to the dragon head again against the strong wind. He took a deep breath of the strong wind, directly mobilized the spiritual power of the Danshan to condense a sharp sword, and then used the strength of his steel-like body to stand on the tiger's back. Then, he kicked his legs hard and his body flew into the air. Then, the tiger also jumped high, and reached the limit of Zhang Fengjai's flying height, and then became his support when he began to fall. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 378. Tianyan Hospital, in the front yard. With the help of the colorful tiger, after successfully flying over the strong wind, Zhang Fengjai threw the sword in his hand forcefully, and at the same time, using the short gap in the air, he quickly condensed the sword skills with his fingers and let out a loud shout. Heaven and earth are infinite, Qiankan sword technique. Accompanied by Zhang Fengjai's roar, the sharp sword stabbed directly at Qin Beizang, who was standing on the dragon's head at the speed of the wind. Facing the sharp sword that was stabbing at him quickly, Qin Beizang's expression changed slightly. At the same time, he immediately raised his leg and stepped hard on the dragon's head, immediately ending the roar of the pseudo-dragon's head. He quickly rose into the air and opened his big mouth to swallow the sharp sword. But just when the dragon head of the pseudo-dragon vein just opened its mouth, the colorful tiger, which was not affected by the strong wind, appeared directly on the head of the dragon head with a tiger leap, then raised its sharp and broad tiger claws and slapped Qin Beizang directly with a look of horror in his eyes. However, at this moment, 3 sharp knives as fast as the wind rushed straight towards Zhang Fengjai, who fell from the air. With the speed of the sharp knife and the evil energy contained in the knife, not only can it accurately hit Zhang Fengjai's fatal vitals, but it can also easily break through his physical defense of steel and iron bones. Therefore, the colorful tiger, who had no time to shoot Qin Beizang to death, suddenly turned around and jumped hard, using his huge body to block Zhang Fengjai's 3 sharp knives. Although the colorful tiger possesses the strength of the foundation building realm, its body is formed by combining the essence and blood of monsters and spells. There is no powerful physical defense of the monster, nor does the body have any ability to heal itself. Therefore, after 3 sharp knives containing evil energy stabbed the 3 fatal parts of the body, the colorful tiger looked up to the sky and let out a deafening cry, and the whole body suddenly turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared into the air. Although the colorful tiger has a huge body like a hill and a fierce momentum, which makes countless onlookers feel frightened, but after seeing it cooperate with the thin boy to save the beautiful girl who was blown up by the strong wind, and seeing it at the critical moment, the vast majority of the people present could not help but tremble in their hearts, with admiration and envy in their eyes. A dozen emotional girls shed a few tears with slightly red eyes, including Bai Jinjiao, who knew the origin of the colorful tiger. Slowly falling to the ground, and retracting the sharp sword that was almost swallowed by the pseudo-dragon vein, Zhang Fengjai looked at the handsome young man in front of the flower bed on the east side of the main building with a gloomy face, extraordinary temperament, and a wicked smile at the corner of his mouth. A fierce murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Because the 3 sharp knives that just killed the colorful tiger were made by the young man with an evil smile in front of him. In the early morning of September 21st, in the emergency room on the 3rd floor of the affiliated hospital, the resentful spirit devoured the twin sister. After reaching out to retrieve the 3 sharp knives that had just been used to kill the colorful tiger, Teacher Gu, who claimed to be my master, stepped towards Zhang Fengjai and reminded him with an evil smile on his face. Municipal Public Security Bureau, the green python transformed by the jade pendant, the energy of justice and evil. Master Thousand Swordsman. In fact, Zhang Fengjai already knew the origin of the young man in front of him when he was attacked by 3 sharp knives. Because when he used the secret method to erase the remaining aura in the emergency room, he had already deeply remembered the other party's unique evil aura. Yes, I am Gu Wengsuan, the so-called Master of Thousand Swords. While nodding to confirm his identity, Mr. Qian Dao asked with one hand bowed. I don't know what to call brother. Thinking of Xiao Yuxi's tragic death at the hands of his opponent, and of being killed in embarrassment in the middle of the night, although Zhang Fengjai wanted to use his trump cards to kill Gu Wengsuan, his rudeness and risky actions in front of the public would not only make him appear to have no grace, but also bring trouble to those around him. Hundreds of people gathered, leaving a bad impression that there was no tutor. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai also introduced himself with one hand bowed. The common name is Zhang Fengjai, and the Taoist name is Qingxiu. Zhang Fengjai's overly calm behavior and the fact that ordinary monks did not dare to use fictitious characters as Taoist names made Gu Wengsuan immediately doubt his true origin. At the same time, he also thought that the other party not only had the power to force the pseudo-dragon veins to reveal their true form, but also possessed a large number of precious charms. He suspected that the other party was probably an elite from the Taoist sect, or a core disciple, or even a true disciple of Longhu Mountain, one of the 10 major sects. Therefore, after stopping to get closer to the other party, Gu Wengsuan planned to first understand the degree of grievances between them, and then decide whether to reconcile with an apology or use thunderous means to avoid future troubles. Fellow Taoist Qingxiu, I wonder why you want to kill the resentful spirit that I have worked so hard to cultivate. Facing Gu Wengsuan's temptation, Zhang Fengjai could either choose to refuse, or he could say justice for heaven. But he didn't say that. Because he wants to let the people around him know about his deep grudge against Gu Wengsuan, so that he can kill Gu Wengsuan in front of everyone and avenge Xiao Yuxi. At the same time, he can also use his identity as a non-staff member of the Supernatural Research Institute to avoid China legal sanctions. So, he said it truthfully. Because the resentful spirit you cultivated, the girl it lives in and devours the soul of, is my woman's biological sister, that is, my future biological aunt. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's truthful answer, everyone at the scene just knew that there was a deep hatred between Zhang Fengjai and Gu Wengsuan that was difficult to resolve. But for Bai Jinjiao, it was like a bolt from the blue, making her dumbfounded on the spot. More than 2 months. It took only more than 2 months for the misunderstanding between them, and the man she loved had already found a new love. This shows that his love for her is not as unforgettable, so tacit, and so unswerving as she imagined. Thinking of her loss of appetite during this period, thinking of her sleepless nights during this period, thinking of her day and night thoughts during this period, Bai Jinjiao felt that it was not worth it to throw away the sachet in her hand, and then walked towards the hospital entrance with tears in her eyes. Gu Yuanxian, who had been worried that the pills would lose their effectiveness, saw Bai Jinjiao who was about to leave the hospital, and immediately chased after her with a cold light in his eyes. Although Bai Jinjiao's actions also attracted Zhang Fengjai's attention, he did not intend to pay too much attention to it. Because he now needs to be vigilant against Gu Wengsuan, whose eyes are gradually showing strong murderous intent. However, when he saw Gu Yuanxian catching up quickly, a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. Because during the time they were together in the Taoist temple, Bai Jinjiao had vowed that she was strongly against cohabitation before marriage, and promised to save the most precious first time for the wedding night, otherwise, she would be alone for the rest of her life. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 379. Tianren Hospital, Front Yard. Because the oath was taken in front of the statue of the Three Pure Ones, even if Bai Jinjiao was an ordinary girl in the secular world, she would be punished for breaking the oath. And with her current trance state, and Gu Yuanxian's cunning and sinister face, chasing with cold eyes, Zhang Fengjai was worried that he might have ill intentions to use force. So, while Gu Wengsuan had not decided to take action, he immediately mobilized his spiritual power to open his eyes and took a closer look at Bai Jinjiao's fortune, but found that a layer of black clouds was covering her head. Black clouds cover the top, bloody disaster. Although the other party betrayed him emotionally, it was the other party's careful teaching that year that allowed him to understand some details of life in the secular world in advance, and finally adapted to life in Ningji city in the shortest time. At the same time, Bai Jinjiao's father would give generous gifts to the three grandfathers in advance on the 3 festivals and 3 birthdays every year. Therefore, feelings are feelings, friendship is friendship, and facing Bai Jinjiao, who is about to encounter a bloody disaster, he has to help her out of both emotion and reason. The thought drives a Taoist silver needle in the sea of consciousness, which appears out of thin air on Bai Jinjiao's head and then hides in her hair. Daiu Kingxiu, is there still hope for reconciliation between you and me? Zhang Fengjai answered truthfully, although Gu Wengsuan intended to kill the other party with thunderous means, but thinking of the horror of Longhu Mountain, one of the 10 major sects of Taoism, he finally asked with some reluctance. What do you think? Zhang Fengjai asked with a sneer after taking out an old talisman from his sleeve. Daiu Kingxiu, Brother Gu is grudged against you because of the resentful spirit, so I don't know when Qin has offended you again. Qin Beizang also doubted Zhang Fengjai's true identity from his Taoist name, profound feng shui practice, and talismans that surpassed his own cultivation. So, when he saw the two sides about to fight, he couldn't help but interrupt. Because he also needed to understand the reason for his feud with Zhang Fengjai, to decide whether to stand aside and watch the next battle, or choose to join forces with Gu Wengsuan. Seeing that Gu Wengsuan, who had just mobilized his spiritual power, quietly calmed down because of Qin Beizang's inquiry, Zhang Fengjai also stopped the action of driving the talisman with spiritual power, and then turned his head to look at Qin Beizang and asked. Dean Qin, what is the origin of the dragon head under your feet? The earth vein that gathers the 5 elements, integrates yin and yang, absorbs the heaven and earth, and seizes the sun and the moon is commonly known as the dragon vein. Qin Beizang, with a hint of confusion in his eyes, answered truthfully. President Qin, what is the function of the dragon vein? It can gather the wealth, blessings, and luck from all directions, and ensure the well-being of the people in one area. With the dragon head as the origin, the dragon vein extends to the tributaries of the canal in the west, the forest park in the north auto shop in the east, and the Huihua community in the south. Zhang Fengjai asked loudly, pointing his fingers in all directions. But why have the merchants and residents in this area not only not received the blessings of the dragon vein, but have been suffering from bad luck and disasters in recent years? Whether it is the roar of the tiger that resounds through the sky or the deafening roar of the dragon, it has already attracted the attention of merchants and residents from several miles around. So, when Zhang Fengjai mentioned their real situation in his question just now, his eyes immediately turned to Qin Beizang standing on the dragon head. And one of the beauties, whose waist is like flowing silk, with silver moon nails in her ears, fingers like scallion roots, and mouth like red cinnabar, clenched her jade fingers tightly and looked at Qin Beizang nervously. Because she was Ye Xianyun's former landlord, and also the rich lady who was most affected by the feng shui pattern of the monopoly of the terrain. This. Faced with Zhang Fenjai's malicious and loud questioning, Qin Beizang suddenly didn't know how to answer. Since you don't want to say it, then I will explain it for you. Suddenly pointing at the pseudo-dragon head under Qin Beizang's feet, Zhang Fenjai mobilized the Danshan spiritual power to assist the vocal cords to roar. That's because you use the geomancy ruler in your hand to control the consciousness of the dragon vein formation, forcibly plunder their wealth and luck, and make them bankrupt and unlucky to help improve the prosperous business of your Tianren hospital. Hearing the information revealed in Zhang Fenjai's roar, all the surrounding merchants and residents suddenly seemed to explode, and immediately began to discuss with each other. However, facing Qin Beizang who could control the legendary dragon head, they only discussed temporarily, and did not dare to rush into the hospital desperately, nor did they dare to question loudly. But the rich sister who suffered the most losses, because of uncontrollable anger, loudly demanded Zhang Fenjai. This young Taoist priest, as long as you can get rid of Qin Beizang and break the impact of the dragon vein on our business, He Jingshang, will not only give you a thank you fee of 3 million, but also hire the most powerful lawyer in the imperial capital to help you with the lawsuit and ensure that you will not be punished by law. After hearing the conditions and guarantees given by the rich sister He Jingshang, a cold light flashed in Qin Beizang's eyes, and Zhang Fenjai smiled indifferently and ignored it, then looked up at Qin Beizang and continued. Dean Qin, although you and I have no grudges in the past and no hatred in the present, but I and Ye Xianyun, the general manager of Baiko Pavilion, are as close as siblings. Now you know why I appeared in Tianren Hospital. Daiyu Kingxiu, is there no room for negotiation between us? Qin Beizang, whose face gradually became gloomy, asked as persistently as Gu Wengxuan. Hand over the geomancy ruler for determining the location of the tomb, renovate the main building and the secondary building to dominate the geomancy pattern, then the grievances between you and Baiko Pavilion can be resolved, and I will leave Tianren Hospital after dealing with Gu Wengxuan. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's request that he could never agree to, Qin Beizang bowed his head and invited Gu Wengxuan. Brother Gu, let's join forces. If Zhang Fenjai's true identity is, as he guessed, a true disciple of Longhu Mountain, one of the 10 major sects of Taoism, then after using thunder to kill the other party, he will only have 2 ways to go. The first way is to either flee to the sparsely populated southern border or to the southern barbarian land in the west. The second way is to contact the Supernatural Research Institute through personal relationships and let them come forward to mediate. But no matter which way it is, it will eventually require a lot of funds as a backing. And Qin Beizang, who runs Tianren Hospital, has long secretly accumulated a huge wealth that is not inferior to the world's richest list, which is the reliance for solving future troubles. Therefore, facing Qin Beizang's invitation, Gu Wengxuan immediately smiled and nodded in agreement. Brother Qin, Wengxuan has the same idea. Of course, in addition to being able to completely solve the future troubles by joining forces, Gu Wengxuan also has another layer of thought, that is, he hopes that their cooperation can bring enough pressure to Zhang Fenjai and force him to retreat on his own initiative. As long as Zhang Fenjai retreats on his own initiative, then with the breath that he secretly intercepted just now, he can secretly kill Zhang Fenjai without anyone noticing, and no one will discover or suspect him afterwards, which is the real way to eliminate the future troubles. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 380. Tianren Hospital, Front Yard. One is an evil cultivator at the peak of the 3rd level of foundation building, and the other is a feng shui master who can use the geomancer to control the pseudo-dragon vein. Facing the joint efforts of Gu Wengsuan and Qin Beizang, Zhang Fengjai not only did not show any fear, but instead raised his mouth slightly to drive the talisman in his hand. Wu! Accompanied by a louder tiger roar, a giant 9-meter tall and nearly 14-meter long tiger appeared in front of Zhang Fengjai out of thin air, and then glared at the pseudo-dragon vein head that was even bigger than it. And a fearful look flashed in the eyes of the dragon head glared at by the leopard tiger. The strength of the peak of the 4th level of foundation building. Because the leopard tiger glared at the pseudo-dragon vein head, it fully stimulated its fierce momentum, so Gu Wengsuan saw the true strength of the leopard tiger at a glance, which made his face gradually solemn. Of course, the solemn face was not because of fear of the leopard tiger's strength. Although the strength of the leopard tiger has reached the peak of the 4th level of foundation building, it is limited by the fact that it is a combination of tiger monster blood and talismans. It has neither a continuous source of demon power nor the strong physical defense of the tiger monster, nor the experience of fighting with complete consciousness. Therefore, he has enough confidence to completely solve the leopard tiger within 10 minutes with his strength 1 level lower than the opponent. However, Qin Beizang, who has only the 7th level of qi condensation, how can he deal with Zhang Fengjai, who has mastered advanced swordsmanship and has reached the peak of the 9th level of qi condensation? If Zhang Fengjai joins hands with the leopard tiger, he will not only make up for the lack of experience in fighting against the enemy of the leopard tiger, but also use the means of sneak attack with advanced swordsmanship, so that he can't concentrate on dealing with the leopard tiger. Haha. Seeing Gu Wengsuan's face gradually becoming solemn, Qin Beizang, who knew what he was worried about, suddenly laughed a few times and reminded him. Brother Gu, although your cultivation and strength far surpass mine, I always regard myself as your elder brother. Do you know why? It's because you are older, earn more money, and have a wide network of contacts. Of course, although he thought so in his heart, in the face of the enemy, Gu Wengsuan still shook his head very tactfully. Brother Qin, Wengsuan doesn't know. That's because with the geomantic ruler, I can completely control and drive the entire pseudo-dragon vein. After replying with an arrogant look, Qin Beizang waved the geomantic ruler in his hand and hit the head of the pseudo-dragon vein 3 times in succession. Because of the excessive pain, the pseudo-dragon vein head's face was distorted, and it rushed directly to the hard ground, and finally carried Qin Beizang's distance into the ground. Facing the sudden disappearance of Qin Beizang and the pseudo-dragon vein head, Gu Wengsuan's eyes flashed a thoughtful look, but Zhang Fengjai's eyes flashed a disdainful sneer. Qin Beizang did not disappear underground for a long time, only 5 or 6 seconds. A large amount of white smoke suddenly emerged from under the 72 pine, cypress, and osmanthus trees in the courtyard of Tianren Hospital, and the white smoke soon completely enveloped the entire hospital. At the same time, the ground where the pseudo-dragon vein was located began to shake violently. However, no matter how violently the ground shook, the buildings on the ground were not affected at all, and the people watching around did not seem to be unstable, which made them feel extremely shocked. Ah! As the ground shook violently, a low and suppressed roar suddenly began to sound in the white smoke covering Tianren Hospital. Along with the roar, the white smoke covering the entire hospital began to shrink rapidly and completely disappeared from everyone's sight in just 5 seconds. But when the white smoke completely disappeared, not to mention that countless people at the scene were completely dumbfounded, even the knowledgeable Gu Wengsuan showed an incredible look in his eyes. Because the 13-story main building of Tianren Hospital, 4, 5 and 6-story auxiliary buildings, and the trees and flowers in the courtyard were replaced by a giant dragon with a body length of more than 100 meters and 4 claws. At the same time, the powerful aura emanating from the giant dragon reached the terrifying peak of the 9th level of foundation building. At this time, Qin Beizang's extremely excited voice came from the dragon head and dragon horn of the giant dragon. Brother Gu, how is it? Qin Beizang's boastful voice made Gu Wengsuan wake up from his state of shock and distraction. Looking at Qin Beizang standing majestically at the dragon head and dragon horn, he bowed his head with envy and jealousy in his eyes and said, "Brother Qin is very clever, Zixuan is convinced. Ha ha." Seeing the arrogant master Qiandao willingly bow his head in front of him for the first time, Qin Beizang laughed even more proudly. Qin Beizang laughed for nearly 10 seconds, then gradually withdrew his smug laughter. He looked at Zhang Fengjai with an indifferent expression, and a murderous threat gradually emerged in his eyes. "Fellow Daoist Kingxiu, this dean will give you one last chance to choose now. If you choose to let go and turn around and leave now, then this dean will not only not care about your offense just now, but also give you 30 million travel expenses. If you continue to interfere without knowing whether to live or die, then don't blame this dean for ruthlessly killing you. I'm sure the sect behind you will have nothing to say afterwards." When they heard the threats and choices Qin Beizang gave to Zhang Fengjai, whether it was Ye Xianyun and Hu Lao in front of Baikou Pavilion, or the rich lady He Jingshang who had just given a generous reward, as well as the merchants and residents living around, they all became nervous immediately. Because they were all worried that Zhang Fengjai would be afraid of the legendary dragon, worried that he would not be able to resist the temptation of 30 million yuan in travel expenses, and finally choose to reconcile and leave the hospital. If Zhang Fengjai really chose to leave, then they could only choose to leave here by selling their properties at a low price. Fortunately, Zhang Fengjai's next choice made them completely relieved. At the same time, they were full of gratitude and admiration for Zhang Fengjai from the bottom of their hearts, and even some elderly people planned to go back and offer sacrifices to the statue day and night. "Tiger, hold him back for me, don't let him run away." Pointing at Gu Zixuan who was calm, Zhang Fengjai pointed his finger at the tiger, and then turned to the giant dragon condensed by the pseudo-dragon vein, and asked with a relaxed look, "Dean Qin, besides the geomantic ruler that can control the consciousness of the pseudo-dragon vein, do you know any other means that can control the giant dragon body condensed by the pseudo-dragon vein?" "I don't know." Qin Beizang frowned slightly, shook his head and gradually felt a little uneasy. So, he reached out and patted the dragon's horn, and then the giant dragon condensed by the pseudo-dragon vein took off directly.